During a family brunch, my sister took my 5-year-old daughter to the crafts store. She came back alone. I asked where my daughter was. She smirked. Oh, must have left her with the glue sticks. My mother said, you'll find her there. They abandoned her to punish me. One call brought their entire lives to ruins. My name is Edward. I'm 34 years old and live in Portland, Oregon. I'm a single dad to a 5-year-old girl named Nyla, and every time I take her to a family event, I try to believe it'll be better than the last. This time, it was Audrey's birthday picnic, my niece, Serena's daughter. She was turning 7, and they'd set up one of those pastel-themed park spreads with balloons, picnic blankets, and a table covered in pink cupcakes. Nyla was excited. She'd worked on a little drawing of Audrey and herself holding hands, and even practiced a song to sing. I should have known better. We arrived with Nyla in a sun hat 2 sizes too big and glitter shoes that lit up. She held the drawing like it was treasure. I gave a nod to Serena and our mom, Gerda, both camped under the big canopy where the adults sipped lemonade and compared elementary school admissions like stock options. Hi, Auntie Serena. Hi, Grandma. Nyla chirped, waving her picture. Serena barely looked up. Hi, sweetheart. Go say hi to Audrey. Then she smiled tight at me. Did you remember to bring something for the table? I held up the wrap coloring book set Nyla picked out. We've got it. Nyla waited until the gifts were opened. She stood patiently beside Audrey, then quietly placed her drawing down on the table, right on top of the boxed toys and gift bags. I made this for you, she said. It's us, playing at the swings. Then she sang, a little off-key but sweet, a short tune about best friends and pink cupcakes. It wasn't planned. She just wanted to make Audrey smile. There was a weird silence afterward. A few people clapped. Audrey hugged her, but Serena looked annoyed, and Gerda? She just frowned. That's cute, Gerda said. You really should get her into more structured activities. Singing like that, randomly, it's a bit much. It's just a kid being a kid, I said, keeping my voice light. Serena leaned in. You let her do that in front of everyone? It was supposed to be Audrey's moment, not a one-girl talent show. I blinked. She was trying to be kind. Stealing the spotlight isn't kindness, she snapped. And that's when I realized they hadn't changed. Not one bit. Gerda shook her head. You've always let her do too much. You were like that as a kid, too. Always making noise. Nyla didn't hear any of it. She was off chasing butterflies near the swing set with Audrey, laughing like the world hadn't just turned icy. And I wanted to keep it that way. I smiled forced. Maybe next year I'll coach her to curtsy before she breathes. Serena rolled her eyes. Don't be dramatic. I didn't argue. I never did. Not with them. I just sat down on a blanket, opened a juice pouch, and watched my daughter play like nothing was wrong. But inside, I felt it. That bitter knot that always twisted when I saw how easily they dismissed her. Just like they did with me. It was the second Sunday of the month, which meant brunch at Mom's house. Gerda insisted we keep the tradition going, even if half of us showed up out of obligation. I came with Nyla, as usual, a Tupperware of banana muffins under one arm and a feeling in my gut that I couldn't quite shake. Serena was already there, lounging in Mom's sunroom like she owned the place. Audrey sat beside her, legs crossed like a mini version of her mother, flipping through a sticker book. You're late, Serena said without looking up. I glanced at the clock. It's 11:08. Gerda waved from the kitchen. That's still late. Nyla ran to Audrey with a squeal, and they disappeared down the hallway. I handed the muffins to Mom and took a seat. Tried to breathe through the low buzz of judgment I could always feel in this house. About 10 minutes in, as we sat around the table peeling hard-boiled eggs and picking at scones, Serena did something unexpected. You know, she said sweetly. Nyla was so sweet at the party last weekend. I looked up, startled. Gerda nodded like she'd rehearsed this. She was, Serena continued, smiling right at Nyla, who had just walked into the kitchen. Actually, I was thinking, how about I take her to the craft store today? Just a little treat. Audrey's already been this week. Nyla beamed. Really? Of course, Serena said, ruffling her hair. If it's okay with your dad. I didn't answer right away. My instincts were firing off, but I couldn't put my finger on why. Serena had never offered anything like this. Usually, she barely acknowledged Nyla unless Mom was looking. Gerda turned to me, all smiles. It's good for them to bond, Edward. Let Serena spoil her a little. Nyla looked up at me with those hopeful eyes, and damn it, I folded. Okay, but just a quick trip. No detours. Of course, Serena said, already reaching for her purse. I'll bring her back in an hour or so. They left with giggles and promises of glitter glue. I tried to shake off the weird feeling in my chest and sipped my coffee, listening to Mom drone on about her book club. An hour passed, then another. By the time it hit 2:30, I was pacing the hallway. I called Serena. No answer. I texted. Nothing. I checked the craft store's hours. Still open. Maybe they just got caught up, Gerda said, not looking concerned at all as she spread jam on toast. I'm going over there, I said, grabbing my keys. But just then, Serena strolled through the front door alone. Her lipstick was perfect. Her expression? Smug. Where the hell is Nyla? I asked, stepping forward. She shrugged. Relax. She's fine. I dropped her off at the store. Told her to wait near the front with the display pumpkins. It's not like I abandoned her in the woods. I froze. You left her alone? Oh, come on, she said, peeling off her coat like this was nothing. She's what? 5? She'll survive a little independence. You said you'd be with her. I said I'd take her, Serena said, walking into the kitchen like she hadn't just detonated a bomb. Oops. Must have left her with the glue sticks. Gerda chuckled. She'll be fine, Edward. You do baby her, you know. I didn't even respond. I was already heading for the door. I'd made a mistake, a big one, and I had to fix it before it got worse. I didn't even grab my jacket. I tore out of the house so fast my shoe came halfway off on the porch. I didn't care. My daughter was alone, somewhere in a store, and the women I trusted her with, my own family, had left her like she was a stray dog tied to a bike rack. I was in the car with the engine revving before I realized my hands were shaking. I called Serena again, straight to voicemail. I hit redial. Again, nothing. That's when it sank in. She didn't forget. She didn't get distracted. This wasn't an accident. This was on purpose. I slammed the steering wheel once, hard, and floored it. I don't remember much of the drive, just a blur of traffic lights, one red eye probably blew through, and the sick pounding in my chest. My phone buzzed. A text from Gerda. Stop overreacting. She's not a baby. That was it. No apology. No concern. Just a scolding, like I was the one causing problems. I called the store on the way, asked if they'd seen a little girl, brown curly hair, pink jacket, sparkly light-up shoes. The woman on the phone sounded concerned. She said yes. A little girl had been sitting on the bench by the register for over an hour, alone. When I got there, I practically sprinted inside, and there she was, my baby girl, sitting on the floor, hugging her knees, face blotchy with dried tears. A young man in a security uniform knelt beside her, offering her tissues and stickers. My heart nearly dropped through the floor. Daddy, she cried when she saw me. She ran and crashed into me like a wave, sobbing into my chest. I held her tighter than I'd ever held anything in my life. She wouldn't tell us her last name. The guard said gently, standing, but she said her dad would come. I looked him in the eyes. Thank you. Thank you for staying with her. She's been here a while, he said, frowning. I was about to call the cops. I'm glad you did, came a voice from behind. A police officer was walking through the sliding doors, already reaching for his notepad. Things moved quickly after that. They asked me what happened. I told them everything: brunch at my mom's, Serena taking Nyla, the disappearance, the smug return, and that line I still couldn't get out of my head. Oops, must have left her with the glue sticks. The officer's eyes narrowed. She left a 5-year-old alone at a store and didn't return? Over an hour, I said. They thought it was funny. The officer didn't laugh. He knelt down to Nyla's level. Hey, sweetie, do you remember what she said when she left? Nyla nodded. I still puffy. She said to wait right there, that she'd be right back, but she never came. The officer stood up and looked at me. This is abandonment, plain and simple. I swallowed hard. She's not just in trouble, sir. She's looking at criminal charges. The words didn't register at first. I looked down at Nyla, still clinging to me, and then at the door. I'd come to get her, but now I was going to get justice. We waited at the store while the officer called for backup. Another patrol car arrived within minutes, lights off, but presence loud and clear. I sat on a bench with Nyla wrapped in my coat, her head resting against my chest. The security guard stayed close until the second officer took his formal statement. He had done everything right. I'd be thanking him for the rest of my life. Nyla had stopped crying by then, but she kept one hand gripped in the front of my shirt like she was afraid I might disappear too. She wouldn't talk much, but she didn't need to. Every few seconds she looked up at me with those big, tired eyes, and that was all I needed to stay angry. Focused. The lead officer, a tall black woman with a firm voice and kind eyes, knelt down again beside us. Mr. Brenner, we've got your full statement. Your daughter's too. We also confirmed with the store's staff that she's been here since just after noon. I nodded. It was nearly 4 now. We're going to follow you back to your mother's house, she said, rising. Based on what your daughter's told us, and what you've described, your sister knowingly left her here without adult supervision. That's considered child endangerment. We're treating this as criminal neglect and abandonment. I want her charged, I said without hesitation. Both of them, Serena and Gerda. They knew what they were doing. The officer didn't flinch. Understood. I scooped Nyla up into my arms. She was light, like always, but she clung to me like she weighed 100 pounds. You okay, Pumpkin? I asked quietly. She nodded into my neck. Can we go home? Soon. I whispered. Real soon. The 2 officers followed behind me in their cruiser as I drove back toward Gerda's. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight, my knuckles ached. The rage had calcified into something more dangerous, clarity. There was no misunderstanding anymore. This wasn't some misguided act of discipline or tough love. This was punishment, plain and ugly, and it had been aimed at a 5-year-old. As I pulled into the driveway, Gerda and Serena were standing on the porch like they were expecting an apology. Serena smirked when she saw me. You get her? Good. No harm, no foul, right? Before I could even reply, the police cruiser pulled in behind me. Her face dropped. Both officers got out, calm, professional, but with the kind of posture that said things were about to change. Serena Weber? The lead officer asked, stepping forward. Serena's arms folded. What is this? You're under arrest for child endangerment and abandonment. Gerda gasped. This is ridiculous. Edward, you can't be serious. The officer ignored her. Turn around. Hands behind your back. Serena's smirk crumbled like a sandcastle hit by a wave. Wait, no. You don't understand it. I understand perfectly. The officer cut in, already placing the cuffs. And just like that, Justice walked her off my mother's porch. I looked at Nyla, who was clutching my hand. You're safe now, I whispered. And I'm not letting anyone treat you like that again. Gerda stood frozen on the porch, her eyes locked on Serena as the officers led her to the cruiser. Her mouth hung open, but no words came out. For a second, she looked like someone had slapped her with a truth she wasn't ready to face. But that moment passed quickly. This is a mistake, she snapped, stepping forward. My daughter isn't some criminal. She was just trying to teach him a lesson. One of the officers turned toward her. Ma'am, we're going to need you to stay right where you are. I held Nyla tighter. She was starting to tremble again. You're not teaching anyone anything, I said, voice low. You abandoned a child. For what? To put me in my place? Gerda's face twisted, as if she couldn't decide between righteous indignation and flat-out denial. She wasn't in danger. The store had staff, cameras. You act like she was left in a ditch somewhere. She's 5, I growled. 5 years old, left alone in a public place for hours. And you knew. You let it happen. Gerda crossed her arms. Maybe next time she won't try to steal the spotlight from Audrey. It hit me like a slap. There it was, no hesitation, no shame. Just a full-throated confession wrapped in petty jealousy. The second officer stepped closer. Ma'am, are you saying you knew your granddaughter was left unsupervised? Gerda blinked. I knew Serena was going to let her explore the store, except she never went in with her. I cut in. She dropped her off and drove away. Serena, now in cuffs, shouted from the police car, Mom, stop talking. But it was too late. The lead officer turned toward her. You're aware your statements are being recorded? Gerda went pale. I didn't mean. Serena twisted in the back seat. He's trying to twist everything. You see what he does? He always makes himself the victim. The officer looked back at her calmly. You said, and I quote, maybe next time she won't outshine Audrey. Serena opened her mouth to deny it, then snapped it shut. Her shoulders slumped, and for the first time, she looked scared. I didn't mean it like that, she mumbled. Doesn't matter, I said flatly. You meant to hurt my daughter, and you did. Gerda's arms dropped to her sides, limp and useless. We just wanted her to understand her place, she whispered. The lead officer turned to the second one. Bring her in too. What? Gerda gasped, stepping back. You can't. This is insane. I didn't do anything. You conspired to endanger a child, the officer said. You're going with us. Serena, now in full meltdown, shouted from the car. She planned it with me. She told me to do it. Said Nyla needed to be knocked down a peg. Gerda whirled around, betrayal painted across her face. How dare you? Oh, now you're mad? Serena snapped. You were the one who said Audrey deserves to be the only star in the family. I stood there, holding Nyla, watching as the illusion of control they always were shattered into tiny, pathetic pieces. Mark, Serena's husband, stood just inside the doorway, arms folded, expression unreadable. He didn't say a word, just stepped back, out of their way. And that said more than anything. Nyla looked up at me. Are they going to jail? Yeah, baby, I whispered. They are. She didn't smile. Just rested her head against my chest and held on. Detective Morella Sloan was the kind of person you didn't lie to twice. She came by our house 3 days later, badge clipped to her belt, folders under one arm, and a presence that filled the room without raising her voice. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, Nyla playing quietly in the living room within sight. We've already filed formal charges, she said, but I need you to know, Edward, what we're uncovering. It's bigger than just that one day. I nodded slowly. I figured. She opened a folder and slid a few printed screenshots toward me. These are from Serena's phone. Search history, private messages, online forums. I leaned in. One post, dated 2 weeks before Audrey's birthday, read, how do you stop a child who constantly needs attention and tries to outshine others? Any discipline ideas that don't involve yelling? Another message. I'm so sick of my niece always being the center of attention. Her dad thinks she's perfect. Might be time she learned she's not special. There were texts between Serena and Gerda, too. Gerda, she needs to learn the world doesn't revolve around her. Serena, I'm thinking of letting her get lost for a bit, just to scare Edward. See if he gets the hint. Gerda, don't tell me the plan. Just make sure Audrey gets her moment. I felt sick. Detective Sloan continued. Your sister also accessed multiple parenting blogs and private threads that discussed emotional discipline, including isolating a child to force compliance. Nothing illegal in itself, but in the context of what she did, it shows premeditation. I finished for her. She nodded. Exactly. I glanced into the living room, where Nyla was drawing quietly at the coffee table. I hated that this had even touched her world. What about Gerda? I asked. I wasn't calling her mom anymore. The detective tapped another document. She kept a notebook. We found it in her bedroom dresser. Pages upon pages tracking how much attention each grandchild received at events. Color-coded. She literally wrote things like, Audrey only got 3 compliments at Easter. Nyla got 7. Not fair. I couldn't even finish the sentence. She's been dismissed from her tutoring agency, Sloan added. One of the parents saw the news report and recognized her. They pulled their kid immediately. The agency launched a review. Her contract was terminated by the next morning. And Serena? Her job's on hold. She was a preschool administrator, which obviously involves working with children. She's been suspended while the licensing board investigates. Between the texts, the abandonment, and now this digital trail, she's unlikely to ever work in education again. I didn't smile. I didn't even feel satisfied. I just felt tired. What about Audrey? I asked. She's still stuck in the middle. Glad you asked. Mark reached out to CPS himself. He's turning over his phone, devices, everything. Wants full transparency. He's also filing for temporary custody while the investigation plays out. I nodded. He's quiet, but he's not like them. Detective Sloan stood, gathering her files. You did the right thing, Edward. A lot of people would have let this slide, called it a family spat, but this was abuse. Systematic, cold. It needed to stop. I walked her to the door. That night, after Nyla went to sleep, I made a call to social services. Hi, I told the woman on the line. I'd like to open a welfare report. It's about a child named Audrey Weber. I'm worried about her safety, and I think it's time someone looked out for her too. Child Protective Services moved fast. Within a week, Audrey was interviewed at her school. The social worker, a kind woman named Liza Morales, told me afterward that Audrey didn't resist opening up. In fact, she had been waiting for someone to ask. She said she thought what happened to Nyla was normal, Liza said, voice gentle but heavy, that it had happened before. Not the craft store exactly, but her being left places. Being told it was her fault if people got mad. That kind of thing. I sat there stunned, phone pressed tight to my ear. She said that. She said Serena would threaten to leave her behind when she was too loud. That her grandma used to say, little girls who take up too much space get forgotten. I swallowed hard. Audrey was only 7. Later that day, a judge granted Mark emergency temporary custody. Serena was still being held pending a court date, and even if she made bail, the judge made it crystal clear. She wasn't allowed near Audrey. No visits, no calls, nothing. Mark came by our place the following weekend. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept in days, but his eyes lit up when Audrey and Nyla ran into the yard holding paper crowns they'd made. He sat across from me on the porch steps, coffee in hand. You knew before I did, he said quietly. You saw it. I nodded. I saw pieces. I didn't know how far it had gone. I did, he admitted. I just didn't want to believe it. Serena always had this way of making you think you were the crazy one. We sat in silence for a while, watching the girls play. From there, the dominoes fell fast. Serena's teaching license was suspended within 72 hours of the CPS report. The state licensing board made it public, citing ongoing criminal investigation involving a child under her care. Local parenting forums lit up with the news. Former coworkers shared subtle digs. Parents started calling the school board demanding answers. Then came Gerda's turn. Her tutoring clients vanished overnight. The agencies she worked through issued a quiet statement on their website, ending her contract effective immediately. Word had gotten out about the notebook. Parents didn't want someone tracking their kids like that. She tried to deny everything, of course. Claimed the notebook was a joke, a grandmother's silly notes. But no one bought it, especially not the agency director, who told her plainly, we don't employ people who treat children like chess pieces. Bills piled up fast. Legal fees, lost wages, retainers for lawyers who were now backing out once they saw the public backlash. Gerda tried to call me once. Left a voicemail saying, Edward, we're still your family. Don't let outsiders turn you against us. I didn't reply. Instead, I spent more time with Nyla and Audrey. We baked cookies. We watched old cartoons. We made pillow forts in the living room. And Nyla? She was slowly getting better. She still asked questions. Still had nights where she'd come to my bed crying because she dreamed Serena left her again. But her therapist said she was progressing faster than expected. Her drawings became brighter. Her laugh came more often. The damage was real, but so was the healing. I didn't celebrate the losses Serena and Gerda faced. I didn't need to. Watching Nyla feel safe again, watching Audrey smile without fear, that was the only justice that mattered. Everything else? That was just overdue accounting. If Serena had any chance of salvaging public sympathy, she blew it the moment she logged onto Facebook. I don't know if she was just desperate or if the walls finally closed in too tight, but one night she posted a long, unhinged rant to her profile. No filters, no privacy settings, just a public tirade full of bitterness and victimhood. My daughter was stolen from me because of a misunderstanding. My brother lied. My mother is being slandered. The justice system is broken. I'm the one being punished for trying to raise kids with boundaries. She ended it with, let them rot. One day, Nyla will grow up and realize her father poisoned her against her real family. That post caught fire overnight. Screenshots were everywhere by morning. Parenting groups, local forums. Even a teacher subreddit had it trending under hashtag Serena Weber Unfit. People dissected her wording line by line, highlighted her lack of remorse, called out the irony of her framing herself as a victim while she was out on bail for abandoning a 5-year-old in a craft store. By noon, the district attorney filed a motion to revoke Serena's bail. The post, they said, demonstrates a clear lack of accountability and an ongoing threat to the emotional safety of the minor victim. The judge didn't even flinch. Her bail was pulled that same afternoon. Officers picked her up at Mark's old apartment. She'd been crashing with a friend nearby, and took her back into custody. This time, no chance of release. Gerda tried to clean up the mess, of course. Claimed Serena had been hacked, said the post wasn't hers. But digital forensics crushed that excuse in under a day. IP address, timestamps, even the draft version sitting in her cloud notes. All of it screamed, Serena wrote this. Meanwhile, Gerda's own situation worsened. She tried to keep the house afloat, but the second mortgage she took out to cover legal fees started bleeding her dry. No job, no reputation, and now no help. Her friends stopped taking her calls. The tutoring agency blacklisted her. Mark stopped answering her texts completely. Eventually, she sold the house. I didn't find out until I drove past one day and saw a for sale sign out front with a big red, under contract sticker on it. The porch looked smaller somehow. Weeds in the yard. Faded paint on the shutters. Like the house itself was done pretending to. I didn't feel satisfaction, just finality. This was the end of the illusion of the family they pretended to be. The pedestal Gerda built for herself had crumbled, and Serena's last-ditch effort to flip the narrative only sealed their downfall. Back at home, I told Nyla, Serena won't be coming around anymore. She looked at me for a long time. Okay, she said softly. Then she picked up her crayon again and went back to her drawing. She didn't ask why. She didn't need to. She already knew. The courtroom was quiet when the verdict was read. No gasps, no outbursts, just a silence that felt like a closing door. Guilty on all counts. The judge's voice didn't waver. Serena sat stiff in her chair, lips pressed so tight they were white. She didn't cry. She didn't argue. I think, deep down, she knew this was coming. Somewhere under all the bravado and manipulation, she had to know what she did was unforgivable. For years in state prison, no parole before two, full loss of parental rights, no contact with Nyla, ever. When the judge said that last part, Serena turned to look at me. I met her eyes, just for a second, and for the first time since this started, she looked small. Not angry, not arrogant, just empty. Then they took her away. Gerda's sentencing came a few weeks later. 18 months for conspiracy to commit child endangerment, obstruction, and false statements. The courtroom was less crowded that day. She didn't even have a lawyer by the end. She represented herself, tried to frame it all as a misunderstanding between relatives. The judge didn't buy it. Gerda left the courtroom in cuffs, staring straight ahead, refusing to look at me or Nyla. Mark sat beside me during both hearings. Audrey was with his mother those days, too young to fully understand what was happening, but he promised she'd be told the truth, in time, in full, without bitterness. She deserves to know, he said quietly. Not just what happened, but that someone stood up for her. The civil suit I filed went uncontested. Serena couldn't afford a lawyer by then, and Gerda's finances were in shambles. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to bankrupt them or gloat. I wanted security. The court awarded Nyla a settlement, and I set up a trust fund in her name. Money specifically allocated for therapy, education, and anything else she might need to process what had happened and move forward. She'd never have to rely on anyone like them again. The judge overseeing the civil case made a point to speak directly to me during final statements. Mr. Brenner, he said, the way you acted, swiftly, calmly, and always in defense of your child, was exemplary. The court commends you. I didn't need the praise. I just needed my daughter to be safe. But hearing those words, it did something inside me. Like maybe I wasn't the overreacting brother they always made me out to be. Maybe I'd been right to fight back. After everything was done, after the lawyers, the courtrooms, and the days I thought would never end, I took Nyla for ice cream. Just the two of us. She ordered vanilla with rainbow sprinkles. I got coffee chip. We sat on a park bench, legs swinging, watching the ducks float by. Daddy, she said, licking her cone. Are they all gone now? I nodded. Yeah, baby, they are. She smiled. Not big, but real. Good, she said. I don't like mean people pretending they love us. Neither did I. As the sun dipped below the trees, I looked at her and realized something. Justice hadn't been about punishing Serena or Gerda. Not really. It was about making sure Nyla never had to wonder again if the people around her truly cared. And now, she wouldn't have to. Spring came early that year. The cherry blossoms along the street outside our apartment bloomed in bursts of pale pink, and Nyla insisted we walk under them every afternoon so she could pretend they were raining princess petals. She was different now, but in the best way. Still herself, still goofy and bright, but steadier. Like her little world had finally stopped spinning. Her therapy was going well. Her counselor, a woman named Renee with wild curly hair and sneakers that lit up when she tapped her heels together, became Nyla's second favorite grown-up. Every session ended with a new drawing for our fridge, some with glitter, some with hearts, all of them loud and proud. One day I picked her up, and she was practically bouncing. Daddy, she yelled before even buckling her seatbelt. I wrote an essay at school. It's about my hero. Oh yeah, I smiled, pulling onto the road. What did you say? I said it was you, she said, then paused. You saved me. That's what heroes do. I didn't cry in the car. Not that time. But I did sit in the driveway a little longer than usual once we got home. We started seeing Mark and Audrey more too. Not just playdates, real time, dinners, backyard games, movie nights with popcorn and blankets thrown everywhere. The girls became like sisters, not cousins. Audrey was quieter than Nyla, a little more cautious, but she'd open up in bursts, especially when she knew no one was watching. One night, Mark and I sat on the back porch after the girls had gone to bed. He had a beer in one hand, legs stretched out on the railing. Feels strange, doesn't it? He said. How quick everything shifted. Yeah, I said. But it also feels like it's supposed to be this way. He nodded. Like we're the family that's left. So we make it count. We decided to take the girls on a road trip in June. to Olympic National Park. Nyla had never seen a real mountain before. Audrey wanted to go hiking and collect rocks. We rented a cabin with bunk beds and a porch swing. The first morning, Nyla sat at the picnic table and drew a picture. The four of us standing under a giant tree, hands held, smiles wide. She titled it, My Happy Place. I kept it, of course, framed it. I think the biggest lesson I learned through all of this was that cutting toxic people out doesn't make your family smaller. It makes space for the right ones. People who choose you. People who show up. Nyla still asks questions sometimes. Why did Serena leave her? Why did Grandma lie? I answer the best I can, age-appropriate but honest. And she always ends with the same thing. But you came. You came back for me. Always, I tell her. Because that's what love looks like. Not the kind that pretends. The kind that protects. And now, finally, that's all she knows.